some members of our Faculty and Administrators Advisory Board today. Series PIs and series department administrators who are going to be part of our pilot program, and other select PIs and select department administrators who've helped us over the last 2 years really get our requirements down. I also want to recognize the staff of OCG and the Campus Controller's Office, Data Analytics, and OIT. This has been a team effort. And we are recording this today. We have a lot more people here on Zoom. I didn't unmute it. Do I have to start over? Shoot, just a second. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, saved. Thank you. It takes a village. So where did this come from? This idea for originally was a research dashboard, and I understood what that meant, and then we evolved this into a research platform. I'm going to talk about the problem we were trying to solve, and then Laura's going to come up and she's going to talk about the funding that made this happen and the evolution of the idea across the timeline. Then we're going to turn this over to data analytics, who really did the heroic work of putting this together, and under the leadership of Steve Basallo, brought this to fruition for our campus. Steve will explain the product and demo it, and I'm going to open to questions. And our folks who are on Zoom will be doing the chat function and Zoom questions in. And when the questions come, we're going to pass the mic because we are recording this, and it's just easier. Are you listening to like music there? No? Okay. So the research reporting platform, it was about 2 years ago that we realized researchers were happiest and most productive when they were actually doing research. And Christina Tenowitz and Laura Reagan and I were sitting in, I think it was my office, and we were talking about how hard it is to be a PI on this campus, and any campus really, and how hard it is to be a department administrator because there are so many systems that you have to have an expertise in. You have to know how to access them in order to keep stewardship going and to keep your projects in compliance. And as we sat and talked about that, Christina Tenowitz got creative, and she said, let's map what it is a researcher has to do. Let's map all the systems that our department administrators need to master in order to really do their job. And this is what we found. And it's accurate. And it made us all cringe a little bit. So there were 13 systems or compliance areas that one had to master. And some were things OCG had to do, some were compliance, some were at the campus level, and it felt like a lot. And so what we knew is that our department administrators were having to go into all these systems and then bring the data and information out, make sense of it for our PIs, and package things in a way that the PIs could efficiently get the information they need. It was an incredibly inefficient system. And so we started the what if game, and that was a lot of fun. What if we could make this easier? What if we could reduce administrative burden? What might that look like? And then we had the idea for the research dashboard, which is now the research platform, to pull information together in one place. And we reached out to campus. And Laura, I think I'm turned over to you here because a good thing started to happen. And we built a big collaboration of many different units.
Okay, thank you.
I just realized this is Laura Reagan. She's the campus controller. I'm Anita Ward, director of OCG and assistant vice chancellor of research. And you're assistant vice chancellor.
Yes, assistant vice chancellor and controller for the campus. So I think we need to change maybe the slide a little bit. I'll click it. So, as Anita said, we had a problem we wanted to solve. And that problem was that spider web that all the researchers had to go to and their administrators in order to get data. So back in 2016, I don't know if you all remember, but Kelly Fox had started an innovation program for the campus. And so we decided we would also offer this idea as part of one of the projects that may be funded. And sure enough, we got funded from Kelly Fox, and Terry Fees also threw in some money in order to fund this particular idea. And then we enlisted the aid of data analytics and OIT. And what they did was they came up with the idea, and they went out, instead of like us like working alone, they went out to the PIs, and they asked the PIs. OIT was very, I guess you would say, led that particular part of this process. Go out to the different PIs and ask them the kind of data that they were really looking for. So, and based on the information that we got back, Steve Basalo and his team started to develop what we used to call the dashboard, the platform. And so over this last year, 2017 until now, there's been a lot of work going on. If you can imagine all that data that was in all those different systems and the bureaucracy here at CU and the fun that they had trying to create one place in order to get all that information. The thing that I really remember the most is it seemed like an impossible dream, but then there was something that they created called a data lake, and with all that data and information in it. And with that, they created the systems that we can get now: proposals, financial management, and brought us to where we are today to be able to look at this prototype. There's been a lot of effort, especially on the ODA side, that's gone into making sure the system has a lot of the data that's needed. So with that, Steve, I'm gonna bring you up and let you show.
All right, this is working. It is very good. RK, everyone, thanks for being here today. This is really exciting for us. We're so happy to show you what we've been working on and really demo all the hard work that went into this. First off, so I'm Steve Basalo, Assistant Vice Chancellor in the Office of Data Analytics. For those of you who are unaware of the group, we formed about 2 years ago, and we're composed of two amazing teams. Reporting and Analytics, which is a newer team led by Russell Dalwood, and also Institutional Research led by Rob Stubbs. So first off, I want to give you a little bit of background about our approach here with this platform and how we see the development effort. The first thing is this is supposed to represent higher education, right? We developed this with higher education in mind, not with some other industry, higher ed. Our researchers here, our faculty, our DRAs. So as I'm going through the demo, I'll try to point that out where I say, this is something that we feel like this is for higher ed, and that's why we developed it this way. It's also why we took a more customized approach to our development effort. So what you're going to see here, this is developed most of it in-house. Secondly, some of you may have already seen a demo or a prototype of a front-end system. And you're going to see that again today. It's been built out a lot further. But what this is representing here is the cloud. And so we worked with OIT together, and we took the leap to put our data lake and our entire data infrastructure, including the front end, into the cloud. It's a first for the campus. And it's been an amazing effort, and we did it very quickly, I would argue. And between ODA and OIT, there were challenges almost every day to make this happen. But what this now affords us is a real long-term advantage, I would argue, in that we're going to have better speed and better responsiveness of the reporting environment. And then we can scale to thousands of users, hopefully, in a much easier way, and that's the power of going to the cloud. And then lastly here is UX. So as I'm going through the environment today, the first part of it is it's not much about the reports themselves. It's about the environment and the platform that we built around it. Because in our view, so much of what we heard from you all, and this is common across many universities, It's not just the reports are slow or the data's not right or it's not showing me. It's how do I get access? What does this report mean? How do I find this report? It's way beyond that. And in 2018, people expect a different user experience. They expect high quality. And that's what we were trying to really aspire to. And again, I think I'm going to demo some of that, and I'm really excited for you to see that. All right, so without further ado, this is our symbol to represent the platform, which we are calling Analytics 360. I'm going to jump in. Okay, the first thing you'll notice here is it's a federated sign-in, so we're hooked into the system that the university uses. So I'm just going to log in with my identity here. And the first thing that pops up is a helper, is a little tutorial. We call this little dog here Archie. And so since I'm in incognito mode, the system thinks that I'm a new user. So this is what happens if you're a new user. So it's a tutorial. It's telling you what this is about. It's pointing out, okay, let me show you how to use this system. So we have this Explore button down here. I'm going to hit that Explore button. And what's coming up here is our subway map. We did a lot of thought about how do you navigate or how do you conceptualize data at a university. And one thing we came up with is, it's like a subway map. So although this is going to be research reporting, this is our first use case, there's going to be other use cases as well here. And we're going to hopefully scale this to admissions and enrollment management, HR, financial management, all housed right here. And what this is supposed to do is help you navigate, help you kind of get a better sense for what the data landscape looks like. So I'm going to open a report here. And Archie is saying, very cool. Why don't you try opening another report? So I'm going to do that. And it's saying, great, you can open as many modules as you like and view any two together. This was another big need we heard, this concept of co-location. People like to see two views at once. And not only that, you want to open like 10 views and toggle through, you have that ability in the platform. So now it's saying, okay, maybe you don't want to have to navigate through that subway map every single time. You just want to come in, you have two reports that you look at every single day. So you go to the sidebar here, add favorites, and there it is. So now I can instantly start off with my favorites and go right to the reports. Simple, fast. And so that was a tutorial that I just went through, and the system is saying, great job, I did it, I'm winning. So next it's saying, okay, why don't you check out your profile? So let me close these reports and check out my profile page. So there's me. I don't know who did that. But what's cool is you can customize this to yourself. You have your name, you can say, okay, let me add a picture. And I have lots of pictures like that apparently of me with orange hair. And so it's meant to be, you know, this system knows who you are. Down here we have some settings. Again, we had heard from users, we have beta tested this pretty heavily in the last year. And we heard from users there's different things that some people like that others don't. So for instance, here's one thing where you can change the way the menu shows up, that initial subway map. So if you don't like the subway map, and you hit explore, so I've just toggled that to say I want a different view. I want it to come up this way, and then this is how I can navigate to my reports. So if we go back to the profile page, I'm going to turn this back to the subway map, and we have a few of these different options here. The other thing we had heard from people was that a lot of times communications would happen outside of the environment itself, and that was a challenge. So we have this notification section here. There's actually a whole communications platform built within this, so that when, you know, maybe a DRA wants to communicate to a PI, or the system needs to communicate something to you, hey, the system is down, or you've requested access to a new data source, this is where you can see that. And then over here, this is getting back to the change management approach, the training built right into the system. And you can see I've completed the introduction tutorial, and I have this guide. Yes, I've done that one, and I have all these other ones. And if you click on any of these, it's going to take you through and show you how to use the system. So that's the profile page. Let me get out of there. And before I get into the reports now, I'm just going to show you a few more aspects of the system and the platform built around the reports. So here is the request access. So if I hit Explore and I see one of these reports that I don't have, and the system will tell you if you don't have access to a specific report. You can hit here, you say request access. You can select any one of these reports here, and you can do it right from the system. There again, we had heard from people requesting access for data outside of the environment itself. It's confusing, challenging. You have to fill out this long form. So this is planned to go directly to the data custodian or data steward of each different data source. So that's the request access feature. We envision this hopefully becoming more like an actual subway map where there might be 100 reports or 100 stops. And hey, maybe I need to search for, I'm not exactly sure where in the subway a certain report is, but I know it has to do with details. So I'll search details. And the map goes dark and it shows you, hey, that's where the details line is. Or maybe I say, what about projections? So you can see it tells you that's where projections are, go there. And then lastly, again, just hyper-focused on that user experience. If you click the sidebar, if you just are saying to yourself, you know what, this thing is actually confusing to me. I don't know what you're talking about here with this map, and it's crazy, so I'm gonna say, please help. I don't get it. And I'm gonna hit send. And so what's going to happen now is we're hooked into the ServiceNow instance at the university that OIT manages, and we will get, in fact, they have just received an email from me in our inbox that says someone needs help, and so we'll know right away. So if you send that and someone calls you within like 2 minutes, don't be scared. It's just us. We're trying to help. Okay, so now I'm going to go into a report itself and show you some of the features, again, we built into the report. So this is, again, not the actual data that's in the report, just what we built within the report itself, each report. So you can see here, number one, a lot of times you'll see a report in an environment, you're like, what the heck is that for? The name isn't clear. So if you hover over it, it actually tells you, hey, this is what this report is for. If I go into a report, let's go into expense overview here. There's this menu up in the top left, and there's a few things here. So first off, again, we really understand that a lot of times, especially if you're new at the university, you're not going to know all the lingo and what everything means. So we have this info panel. Again, it's going to tell you what the report is about. We can build this out further as we get people asking us questions about each report. We can use that data and that information to make this more and more intuitive and give you the information you need. We also have this community page, part of here, where you can say, hey, this report is awesome. Have you ever thought about adding something else, right? And then if I add that to the community, someone else can see that and say, yeah, actually, I wish that was there too. And again, it's just more feedback. It's ways for you all to communicate with each other about the reports, what it's for. So it's just a nice, again, it's just a nice aspect of the user experience that we were trying to design. There's a suggest button here, which again, we're going to need more and more usage to build this out and more reports. But what that's going to do is say, hey, someone else looked at this report, and right after, 100 people looked at this other report. Again, it's helping you guide you. Like, you're looking at the summary, maybe you should look at the details page too. And it's going to suggest that for you, and then details will pop if we go here, there's also this lock button. Because you can have multiple reports open at one time, you can lock one and then open 5 more, and that one will stay as opposed to rotating through. For the Excel geeks like me, you can download your data in CSV pretty easily here, and make your pivot tables and do whatever else you want to do, especially you know, the DRAs, I'm sure, are going to want to do lots of different analysis that the environment want to do, because we'll never be able to get everything, right? And so that's why we need this ability to download that underlying data and really analyze it. So just like that, I have my raw data underneath that. And if you're saying to yourself, well, you know, I don't need the data, I just need a pretty picture, we can do the PDF. And that will come through in a pretty easy to read, formatted PDF. And there's that. Let's see what else we have here. So then there's this share button. Again, we really see this, I've seen this in the past at other universities where people who use these systems, there's like a community. There's a desire to share things with each other. Like, hey, did you see that? That looks crazy, or that looks awesome. So you have this ability to share. So I can share this current view. Or if you're a DRA looking at this, or a PI looking at this, and you say, you know what, something doesn't look right here. I'm going to share this with somebody. I'm going to send it over to them. You can do that, and you can say, let's send this off to Sandy. I'm going to email Sandy, and now she has a link to this report, and it'll go right to her. She can know, like, hey, I have questions about this report. So that's the functionality. Now I'm going to dive into the actual reports themselves. Let's go back to our Explore button. I'm going to give you a high-level overview of 3 reports and then dive a little bit deeper into 3 additional ones. So let's go to the timeline here. Before I start, the one thing that we, Danita and Laura had mentioned, was getting different data sources in the same place. And the concept there is, as a researcher, as DRAs, even though we have different systems to manage our proposals and awards and our finance, that's not how you want to look at it. It's not like, that's an artificial distinction in your mind. You know, research is end-to-end. Proposal, you're managing proposals and awards and grants, you know, that you already have, all at the same time. And so we tried to put that in one place. So first off, you can look at this timeline. This is just the proposal side. On the award side, it's just going to give you a sense of, here's your awards over time. And the other thing to note here is that we have put in dummy data. So this is Fozzie Bear, and all these, you can see these crazy hashes here. That's just dummy data. So don't look too deeply into that. But you can see here, it's like over time, just give me a sense for all my awards quickly. I want to see it quick. What's today? How many awards do I have? Where do they stand? If we go to the pipeline, and I go to, let's see here, Homer Simpson. I think he's in there. There he is. You know, it's just, again, here's kind of my, you know, how many proposals I've had, how much I've been awarded, just a quick glance, what's my success rate? So that's pipeline. And then let's go to employee expense. So this is a more, you know, nuts and bolts, real just need that we had heard, like quickly show me everyone that is being paid on all of my awards or all of my projects. And so this is what this is meant to do. It's just going to give you a quick summary. Here's everyone that's being paid, and you can filter by project and fiscal year. All right, so now I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to try to show you kind of the power of that co-location idea. So here's a summary. Again, there's lots of hashes in there, so ignore that. But you can see in this report here, we have this data up here is coming, you know, from the proposal award side. And then over here, you can see budgeted and available, all in one place. Proposed, awarded, just a high-level summary. You can filter by proposal status. You can sort by lots of different categories. If you want to show the projects, show me all the projects underneath each one, you can do that. But then you might say to yourself, you know what, I need to see all the child proposals underneath the parent proposals. Let's look at that. So then you open up the details, right? And now you can see your high-level summary and your details all at once, all next to each other. And you can filter through this and say, okay, let me look at these child proposals and go, okay, this doesn't look right, whatever, this is what I expected. So summary and details right next to each other. So now let's go to the encumbrances. So this is another need we had heard. We might be telling you this is how much you've already spent, but what else is out there that's committed? I need to plan my expenses for the future. So we have tuition remission, we have purchase orders, we have payroll encumbrances, travel should be coming hopefully soon. So you can get a sense for, these are all the things that are outstanding. You know, I might have $500,000 left, but it looks like I have $400,000 encumbered. So I actually only have $100,000 left. So that's that encumbrances report. And then lastly, here's the expense overview again. And this is purely expenses, but it's giving you, although it does have, if you want to search by proposal number, you can do that. This right here is just giving you a sense of how am I spending my money? How's it break out between faculty and admin versus, you know, operating expenses versus salaries and wages? You can then look at more detail down here by looking at those account categories, your budget, your actuals, which you have available. You can go month by month. So it's just trying to put all that, you know, in one place. And then the other thing I just want to say is you can see how fast I was able to toggle through all these reports. And that's what we were going for here. You know, to Benita's point at the beginning, it's these questions that you have, you want those answers fast. You want to get back to doing research, writing proposals, doing that. And that's why you can see how responsive this is. That has a lot to do with us putting this in the cloud and how we built this. And so we're hoping to continue that as time goes on. So the last thing I want to show has nothing to do with research, but for those of you who have not seen this, this is a conceptual view of what the data lake can do and what kind of visualizations we can build as we go through this. And that's the other thing I want to kind of note is that while this is a big day for us and we're delivering this to you all, in a lot of ways it's the beginning. Once we put this out into the wild and get your feedback, it's just going to continue. We're going to keep going, keep making improvements, keep adding new data sources. So this, again, this is more of a prototype, but we just wanted you to see what's possible from a visualization perspective. What we're trying to capture here is basically international activity on the campus as a whole. So again, regardless of the system where it comes from, because we don't think of naturally underlying systems, right? We just think conceptually, like, whoa, like what are we doing internationally at CU? And so you can see these values over here, applicants, admissions, matriculated enrollment, there's study abroad, there's grant funding, there's research collaboration, there's gifts, right? All those things are gonna come from different systems. But we're trying to put it all in one place. Again, this data here, it's gonna take us a while to get all that in one place, but that's the goal. That's what we're moving towards. And just in terms of user experience and UI, you can see there's this nifty map and you might say, well, what about Brazil? What's going on in Brazil? And it's just a fun and engaging way to help you understand and get involved with your data. So that's the international activity map. And that's where I'm going to stop and open it up to questions before we talk about next steps. Yes, over here.
Hi, Steve. I have a bunch, but I'm going to start with the platforms, Mac platforms as and PC. Bill, the one problem with either of those?
That's the plan. Yeah, most of our developers, a lot of them work on Macs, so it's working on both. If anything, you may see slight differences in browser, but we'll just have to continually monitor that and work through those. those
So,
instances, but it will work.
Will you have for browser, like if I work on Mac, I can do Safari, Chrome, whatever, it'll work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, again, when I've used the systems in the past and other BI tools, I'd say the differences are bigger than what you're going to see now with this. So, you know, Chrome might be slightly better, but at this point, it's a very small difference. So you should be able to use whatever you want.
That sounds great. Being able to download an Excel is really, really great. I have a quick question. So how does this sort of relate to Cognos? Because I can see this platform being hugely wonderful. How is this all supposed to work?
Yeah, you know, Cognos is managed by the system office. And so, you know, right now we do rely on some of their underlying data structures. So the CIW, we rely on that.
And I'm assuming that's how your data lake is refreshed every.
It is currently. It is, but it is. We can certainly. We don't need to use the CIW. We can use whatever we want, right? I mean, at this point, the CIW is very powerful, though, and so that's why it makes sense. In terms of Cognos, you know, our view is that visualizing data, looking at data, it should be. You don't necessarily have to pick one tool. I'll say that the way we build this environment, if we find that Cognos is filling a need that it would be you know, inefficient or not necessary for us to do, we can actually put a Cognos report in here. Not that we want to do that, I'm just saying that that's possible. So I think we're just going to have to see how this evolves. I mean, I wish I could say, yeah, in 2 years, this is how this is going to interact with Cognos, but I think we just want to see what people use this for, see what they want to do with it, and then go from there.
So Cognos will be gone by next year.
We'll see, I don't know. That's certainly not the intent, but.
Sorry, I have a functionality question. With the search bar, as we hopefully merge out and have a wide variety of reports available, if you search for a specific term that pops up in multiple areas, how does it shift? Does it link all of those at the same time? Do you have a scroll function that's like which report you're looking for specifically?
That's a great question. Developers, what do you think?
It'll link all of them, but the color of the line indicates the sort of the subject area.
Can everyone hear me? And so really quick, the question for the Zoom folks, someone asked if you were on the search function and you search details and there's 20 reports in the future with details, how is that going to work?
So Steve, if you open the Explorer for us.
Yeah.
So the color of the line indicates the subject area that we're dealing with. So in this case, red is the proposal side. You can see the legend on the lower left hand. So when you're doing your search, it's kind of a combination of what's blinking as well as what kind of line you're looking for that will kind of key in on which reports are open. So overview, if you type in overview as an example.
Let's test it. Look at that.
I didn't lie.
So you several times mentioned looking at my projects. How do I define what my projects are? You know, test your goal here of multiple data sources. As a PI, I've got contracts, grants, internal university funds, gifts, money shoved under the couch. How do I?
Yeah. I think you're pointing out. You're pointing out something important, which is that even if we have multiple data sources, if you are not identified, you know, with a gift, for instance, then there's no way for us to pick that up. I think that's something we're going to have to really work through, because one of the reasons we have that sidebar and that help is to collect that kind of feedback. And the reason it's hooked up into ServiceNow is so that we can take a look at that and say, okay, it looks like lots of people are asking to get added to gifts. And then we can work with, that's why it's great to have Laura on the project, work with CCO to say, okay, every time we get an email about that, we're going to forward it to you. Can we add that? Those are the kinds of business process changes we're going to want to hear about as we go through. So, I mean, you know, doing it directly in the system is probably not feasible necessarily, but that's why we have all of those different help features included.
So I don't currently tell it, here's all of the things I should see, it does that automatically.
No, I'm saying you would have to go to the sidebar and say, help, I don't have access to these 10 things. But you can do it in the environment, and I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to make that business process smoother for you. Yes, sorry about that. So the question there was, what if you're not on a gift account, for instance, if you're a researcher or a PI and you're not on a gift account, how do we ensure that you get added to that in the underlying data system? I'm just curious, how does that work now?
It does.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So in terms of like who you would contact at this point, got it. Okay. Write that down. Yes.
So, I remember discussing this a couple of years ago, getting into security issues because you're dealing with HR. So
Yeah.
when you ask for access to these areas, how do you get them? Is there going to be some row level security, or who can access my stuff, and what data can I get to?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're building out the security features this summer. I don't know, Russell, you want to speak a little bit more in detail to how it's going to function? The idea is that, every single source of data, HR, grants, et cetera, has a data steward or a data custodian that dictates who should get access to what. So our goal is, if you request access from this environment, it goes directly to the person, that can grant that access. So right now it all comes to us because we're in the early stages, but eventually we've said, go directly to the data steward, data custodian. In terms of the row level security and how that's going to work, you want to speak to that, Reza?
Yeah, so everything really depends on the individual subject area we're talking about. So for research specifically, the main security level is when your PI, if you're the primary PI on the data sources that we're pulling in, you see that data automatically without asking for access. For the DRAs, it would be driven by InfoEd. So we're kind of copying over what's happening in InfoEd. And the main goal here is to mirror the source systems as best as possible so that there's very little gap in understanding between moving between these two domains. And also, I don't think it was mentioned yet, but for the sake of going live now, we're pushing series data right now into the system, as well as a core group of PIs. So all of that level of access is handled with Steve. We'll jump into more details about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Or does that work?
One of the inherent problems with this is the aggregate level. So for instance, if you're hearing these reports to the PI, and they want, like Bobby wants his stuff, multiple fund sources stuff, and that's the part that you can do that. And if it's an administrator that wants to take a look at all of so-and-so's different types of grants, with the department's grants, with the institute's grants, can you crush that data in a way that sort of, gathers it all, and then if I want to do that and HR stuff, who says, sure, you can take a look at all that stuff, even though in my institute, I have 3 or 4 or 5 different departments. And it's been a historic problem being able to get access to that data all the time.
Sure. So to the first point that you just had, one of the powers of building this in-house was that once you log in, we know who you are and can drive that aggregation level for you. So we know the DRAs, we know the PIs, and the reports are built in such a way as to make that what you just described useful. Now, when it comes to the HR data, Steve had mentioned data stewards and data custodians. They're the real driving force between who can see what. And it's really a conversation between them that we facilitate using that sidebar over there.
It's exciting.
So this is a follow-up on that very discussion around the aggregation. So I just want to ask specifically, because I'm not positive what you meant just now, or responding to it. So I'm an associate dean for research, and in, for instance, Q, I can look at an aggregation of all the articles and books from my whole unit, the School of Education. Is that going to be possible to give me the permission to look at aggregated report for all the projects in the School of Education, because these kind of visualizations are not possible to do in other tools.
So long-term, definitely. We're building it in with that exact purpose in mind. So that level of access is really driven by who's looking at the reports. And in the back end, on the technology side, to make that possible, the data lake actually aggregates data at different levels depending on what the use case is. So that's how we're driving that. For the short term, for going live in the immediate, that's not the case, but it's absolutely slated for development.
Since this is based on who's logging in, are you pulling the awards? So if you're a co-PI on something, are you going to be able to have kind of a summary as well? I mean, what field are you pulling from? And then my other question is, you said based on the administrator assigned to that, or from InfoEd, are you pulling on the admin edition that we manually do, or based on when we create the ERA record, the PI and whatever administrator is attached to that PI or code?
Got it. So again, I'll probably leave those specifics to Chopin maybe. I will say this, that the security and how people are going to access this is going to be built this summer. So we're going to want to hear as much about that as possible. We do have a pretty good understanding of that right now. But Chopin can probably speak to the very specifics in terms of the underlying data structures.
So at this point, we're only having PI and department ID level of searching the data. If you are co-PI, we're not there yet. We will be going further.
Yeah, so that's slated for this summer. And by September 1st, the goal is to have it so that whether you're a co-PI or PI, you can see your data.
And so series will be our pilot tiers for the summer. And then by September, it is expected we'll have the permissions ironed out and go live to the entire campus.
I have a question from the Zoom session.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the questions was, how will the yellow line finances be used in the future?
That's a great question. So because we brought in the grant finance information, we have all that finance data. So at some point, we will begin developing reports for financial officers and budget officers, and maybe the controllers division. Again, I'd say with the subway map concept, there's going to be intersections there, right? It's finance and research, those things intersect. That's why we built it. That's kind of why we conceptualize it this way. So it's just a matter of, for us, it's just a matter of campus priorities, right? What do we move on to next, right? Do we, and that's why it'll be great this summer to hear how far along we are with series and the 11 PIs. Because we may say, to leadership, let's keep going down the research route for a while longer and admissions, and then that or we might say, we're feeling pretty good, let's shift now to finance. Again, this is to Russ's point, we have a lot of flexibility now moving forward, and that's why this is exciting. So that's why I would say, don't think of this as something where, we're just gonna release it and that's it and it's done and this is the product. This is gonna be iterative. We're gonna keep going and developing. So it's just going to be a matter of campus priorities. Anything else? Oh, question in the front here, and I'll repeat it this time. Go ahead.
I was just curious, I know this is more geared towards researchers in DRA, but how would central office, what's like kind of the expectations of how to integrate our current workflow? Because obviously this is data being pulled from siloed systems that we're as a central office feeding into. So their screens might look different from us, and just that kind of question.
Yeah, so the question was, this is what we just showed, right, is for PIs and DRAs. and research, but what if you're a central office like the CCO or OCG? There again, we're not, because all that underlying data infrastructure is in place, it's just a matter of, meeting with you all, getting that prioritized and saying, from the CCO's perspective, this is what we need from that data, and then we can build that out. I'll say that the majority, of the time leading up to this, I don't want to say it's going to be easy now to build reports, because it's never easy. But the underlying data infrastructure, that data lake, the cloud, that part takes, a long time. That's hard. And that's really what we've been working hard on. But now that it's there, now that we have that in place, now it's just a matter of saying, okay, what do you need? How do we deliver on that? How many resources do we have? How do we prioritize? And that kind of thing. I'll also say that if for some reason it's, we're struggling to meet the need, or for whatever reason it's not being prioritized, the data lake itself, apart from this visualization tool and this platform, we'll see how you can leverage that. Maybe you just need access to the data some other way, and if it's not slated for this, we'll try to make that available.
I just have a follow-up to that. So if we have our researchers looking at this, which is great, and they call and say, what the heck?
Yeah.
How am I going to know where
Yep.
that data is coming from? I assume you're going to have a map that shows where all the pieces are coming in from, what systems and what fields, so that we can help sort out any discrepancies or issues.
Yes, and that's the ultimate goal of the info pane, right? Is, that's why I would say as you're hearing those questions, as you're using the system yourselves, helping us understand those questions is going to be key, because then we'll put that and we'll prioritize that in the info pane. Like, every time I look at this, I'm not sure where the data is coming from. So please tell me, is this from InfoEd? What is the refresh schedule? All that stuff is what we're going to want to hear. We're going to put that into the info section.
My question, I think, was about the pipeline report, or perhaps details. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
Had the list of the
This?
awards that have been submitted, received.
Oh, yes,
done.
this one. Yeah.
Award received is one of the statuses.
Yes.
That's going to need to be defined. Does that mean there was a
Got it. I see what you're saying.
type set up, and that's when it hits this report, or
Got it.
or is that when we log it and it's in our queue in OCG?
Got it.
Otherwise, that would be the most common question that we get.
Got it.
As far as this entire platform.
Taking that down. And so we'll put that right here, right? What does total awards received mean? We can, basically we'll detail that out in a lot further detail. I'll put it right here. What does awards received mean? There, now it's in there.
Is there going to be any type of attachment just to support the
What you're saying?
information that's here, like invoices? If you're going to show how much a sub has spent, are the invoices going to be accessible through here, or are they still going to go to these apps?
So the question is you're looking at a specific expense and you want to see the physical invoice itself. Is that right? I mean, that's not currently within the functionality. I believe that is possible. And I'll look to the developers. Yeah, Raza is saying, yes, that is possible. So again, we'll just have to collect that and, see how big the need is.
You mentioned that this is sort of end-to-end, and since Laura is, how do we go into closeout? So do we follow it literally till dust is on the ground and it's done, or do we stop at the end phase?
I mean, so that one report, I believe you can, like even the timeline, it shows lots of awards that maybe have ended and are done. And you can see the history there. So I don't think that there's any limitation there, but I'll leave that to the data experts over here.
So basically, basically we're looking at closeout. The process of closeout is changing. And so right now we're clearing up a lot of backlog. So that's no new news here. But basically there will be a lot of things that are changing that are going to stop when project end date really does occur in 60 days. And so we'll work on that this summer. Right now, I don't think that information is in there in any kind of special way.
Okay.
And maybe that's something that we need to look at. So it's all there together, from soup to nuts. Okay.
All right. So,
I have to say, I'm just gonna shout it out. We have to say, this is great. Thank you.
cool. Good to hear.
And that's a great segue.
Yes.
Laura and I, we have a lot of people to thank, and I want to start with one of our PIs who had a conversation with me at one of our FAB meetings saying, can't we make this easier? So Bob McLeod, can you stand up?
Really quick, I just want to say, Bob, when I started like my 8th day at CU, we were in a ELP program, like a leadership program together. He took me aside. He's like, Steve, you're a data person. You gotta do something about research data. I can't get it. I don't know where it is. So good to be able to deliver on that.
And if you're with OIT, please stand up. Thank you. And we have a cadre of DRAs and PIs who helped us in the development piece of it. I think they're all on Zoom, but if you're here, please stand up. They're Zooming.
Okay. Well, we'll talk for a minute.
Yes, I really want to give a really big thank you to data analysts. So could you guys stand up? The leadership of Robin. Come on, don't be shy. And Steve Basalo, this team here has done something that we really thought was impossible. Because I remember that conversation with Steve when he first came. I said, Steve, if you do this, you'll be, I don't want to say,
Yeah.
I said, you'll be a king.
Yeah.
And so basically, this team has worked, and this weekend was really a testament to the hard work that they did. This was a system and a platform where they worked 24 around the clock to get this to the cloud, to get this in a way that you all can really see it today. This team is phenomenal. They are doing some things, and they're going to take us places that we never thought we could go. And can you guys just give them a really good And I can't say enough to the addition of Steve and Rosa to our team. They are making us look at processes in a new way that we never had the ability to do it. You might have good ideas, but if nobody's there to execute it and really implement it for you, you know, you're just kind of stuck. And since they come to the university about a couple of years ago, they have really made an impact and a real difference. And I want to thank them as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's really, that's great to hear. This team is incredible. I want to thank them. They're the best team I could ever ask for. OIT has done amazing work with us this year. And, you know, just having everyone engaged with this and being patient with us as we went through this process. And thank you to Danita and Laura having faith in us. You know, there were a few moments there where we weren't sure, but they continued to support us. And yeah, it's just been amazing. So thanks everyone. There's a lot more to come here. Do you want to speak to the next few stages here for this summer? Just like I said, in some ways, this is the beginning of our journey.
This is the beginning, and what we want to do is really get our CCO staff and our OCG staff into the system, because you're probably going to be, as much as people may use that help function, they may use their, Joan, what does this mean function? And so having your eyes on it, having you play in there, having you look up data, Starting after this Labor Day weekend, it'll turn on Tuesday. We'll send an email out to remind you because we're gonna have a good time over Labor Day weekend. You're gonna forget about us. And so your testing starts on Tuesday. We're gonna give about a week for you to do that before we bring on our series PIs and those select DRAs and PIs who will be playing in this little sandbox with us. That starts on Monday. Over the summer, we're going to gather all your feedback. ODA is going to be working really hard on the permissions issue. And then the goal is by September, when folks have come back, classes have started, we will launch this to campus in a real nice campaign. And then your phones will really be ringing. So that's the plan.
Awesome. That's it.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Help yourself to food and treats on the way out.
Thanks for saying that. That was